Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
So how long have you been on council? Do you actually have a year in your head? I haven't taken the time to go back and go.
I haven't either,
Okay.
but I think it's around 11 or 12 years.
Seems it must be about right. So
Yeah.
that means you came on like years, somewhere around 3 or 4.
Yeah, I don't remember when Joe departed, but we were together for 1 year before Joe
Okay.
left and moved east.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you think about what you've learned, what you could impart, like what were the highs, what were the lows? Like let's just start with, like, how did God form you in this process of being on council?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a responsibility, to be taken seriously because, your input, your thoughts, and everything is leading to the direction of where the local body is going to go. So, first and foremost, it's a feeling of a responsibility. I need to get this right. The good news is there's a lot of other smart people in the room as well, and I think one of the highlights was bouncing things back and forth and getting feedback, other perspectives, and going, okay, that changes mine slightly. So it's been a great learning process throughout the years, and the different people that we've had involved in the council all brought tremendous items. And I know sometimes over the years we've had to say, hey, we haven't heard from you. Your input is valuable. We need to, we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been good. It would help us fulfill the role of a council better when everybody participated and everybody was contributing, from their source of strengths.
I mean, you come from this like big executive world. How is a church council different than your professional world, or how is this one in particular different?
Yeah, I think from the executive standpoint, we'd go away for quarterly strategic retreats, and we'd have big arguments about various things, and what to prioritize and everything. And then at the end of the meeting, we all said, okay, this is what we're doing. And then you'd go back, and even if I personally disagreed with what we were doing, it was my job to make sure my team felt I was 100% for it.
Okay.
And it's not all that different with a church group. It's just, for me personally, I take a look at this as it's different. It's not a business. This is life. This is more serious. This is spiritual. Spiritual matters, and people's lives. I make a bad decision as an executive, we pay the price in profits or some other things, but if we get it wrong in spiritual things, then that's a bigger weight.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And so, I think that there's a lot of similarities, and that you're charged with evaluating the future and determining what's coming, what do we need to be thinking about, and how do we respond to it. And so that's very similar. It's just, it for me personally, the weight of the spiritual side, the church council, is much greater than on the executive side.
Yeah, hearing you say that just makes me grateful, especially knowing I was a 30-year-old kind of know-it-all, know-nothing, and just the value that you and Jim and Daryl, in particular, in those early days of having your senior leadership, and then watching Brian and Kyle and Linnea kind of grow into that. But that's it. So thank you. It's been a humoring thing. So when you think about, like, I mean, we're about to do this rotating council thing, and you and Kyle volunteered to be the first ones to go off.
Yeah.
Been much said about like this is the role of the council, but what would you want, not just the next council people, but the council over the course of the next decade? Like, what would you want them to understand about their role?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that anybody who applies kind of knows what they're getting into, you know, and what I would say is, you know, don't be afraid to speak up, you know, because we need that interplay. We need the different ideas and the different opinions. You know, sometimes over the years we had to draw that out. Yeah. You know, from people, but you know, there's value in the discussion.
Get out there.
Yeah, yeah, get out there. Don't be afraid to, you know, to speak up. And there is no wrong answer other than, or wrong opinion other than one you don't express and wish you had.
Yeah, that makes great sense.
So, you know, it's a team of people united in purpose around, you know, being a part of God's plan, and you stop and think about it, it's kind of an honor that God says, I invite you in. You can be part of this. Yeah. This is what I'm doing. You can be part of it. And so, you know, I would just say, you know, be an active participant. You're there for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
God chose you for that. Right. So be faithful in it.
Yeah, and this new system makes that all the more clear, because not even, I mean, in the past, we, and to a greater extent, I kind of controlled who got in that room, but now it is kind of a neat part of that.
And that's an encouraging thing about this new system. You get the owners, the folks who invest in Narrate having a say, having an input in it. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the danger is you end up with, like, you need your great people and your people with the high gift of leadership, like yourself, who are already busy. You need them to want to be in that room. So that, to me, is the danger, is you can't have a room that lacks those. And I think of, you know, one of Jim, you'll remember one of his isms was, if you want to get something done, ask somebody who's already busy. So that's, to me, the one concern, is that if you have busy people who don't apply, but at the same time, I guess that's part of the trust of the whole process. Stuff like this can wreck people's souls, right? Like being behind the scenes. How have you, I mean, to what extent have you been able to avoid that, I guess, and if so, how?
Yeah, certainly over the years we've dealt with some tough situations, and you know, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't impact you.
For sure.
You know, you start to question some things, and you wonder, am I hearing correctly, or, you know, this is supposed to be a church. Why are we dealing with this? And it's like the church is not immune from things of this world. So, you know, I think the major thing is, you know, for me, few close friends that I can chat with and trust in, and certainly Doris has been, you know, that rock for me, that I can always, I can just lay it out there. As ugly as it is, I can just lay it out there, and she's good with that. And, you know, she helps me process through an awful lot.
You don't have to worry about wrecking her soul. Like, she's well differentiated enough that she can take it, and that's huge.
Yeah,
I guess that's a good point. This stuff like this doesn't have the potential just to wreck council people's souls, but also the spouses thereof.
Yeah.
So you guys are both, it would seem, coming out of this alive, which I'm really grateful for. I mean, it's big.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even in this rotating council thing, there was 2 conversations I had, and I didn't have very many, so it's a pretty high percentage of people who have, like, I mean, you got to know, I've been a part of one of those before, and I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was a good reminder to me of this stuff can go bad.
Yeah, and I think, you know, my experience over the years even though there were highs and lows and some, tough things to deal with, I guess I always at the end of the day felt like God wanted me here. That I had something. Often I didn't know what it was, but I felt like I should continue on in it. And over time, then it becomes clearer, and you go, okay, that's why you wanted me to stick this out. And what changed here when you introduced the concept, this was the first time where I felt, God saying to me, you've accomplished what I wanted you to do. And it's a new season. It's time for new people, new leadership. And so that's where, when you asked the question, I said, I'll volunteer because I felt released to do so.
Oh, wow. Huh. That's cool that the Holy Spirit did all that, because, I had no idea how all that, I guess that's part of it. I mean, that word control keeps coming up, of just trusting that we're about to find out, is this something we built, or even, I guess even more so, it still could be, is this something God wants to continue to do in the future? Right? I mean, that's the reality of it. But I think that's also the legacy of what we've built by way of always being portable. And we've always said the point at which we're not effective, then, and the winds of the Spirit have left, we'll be done pretty quickly, because we don't have a lot of the things that would allow us to exist beyond our relevance.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that, if we take a look back, one of the things I believe I brought to it was this whole fiscal discipline that we've had, and I think what I related back then is the story of Joseph and him going from the pit to leadership in Egypt, and saying there's going to be bad years that come. We need to plan ahead for those, that type of thing. And so I feel very good about where Narrate is positioned at this point. With me departing from the council, and it's going to be exciting to see who steps in, and like I said, I get the sense there's a new season.
Yeah.
And that takes new people to drive that new season.
Yep. I think I think you're absolutely right, that I'm excited for the opportunities and the challenges that come with, for places like this to exist in places like this. It involves buy-in in lots of ways, and we have lots of buy-in, but there's also, even as I just kind of explore generosity, and it's just a lot of what it takes for a church to exist is very countercultural, and probably more so now than ever, especially in an economic downturn and all those things.
Yeah.
But also, let's speak to that, because part of what you're alluding to there, I think, is you were a huge part of going, hey, if families should have emergency funds, then so shouldn't a church as well, especially one that doesn't have assets that it can lend against. So can you speak to that? Because I think at this point we have 6 months of emergency set aside.
Yes.
Help, because there would be those that would say, I don't want you saving my giving, I want you giving my giving.
Yeah, I think I'd go back to the story of Joseph. They had 7 years of abundance, and the word he got through the dream that the Pharaoh had, and he interpreted it, was that that would be followed by 7 years of famine. And so the wisdom in it for him was, we have surplus here, but we know we're going to be behind in the future. There are seasons. There will be prosperous times, there will be less prosperous times. And I think my thoughts behind the whole thing of having a reserve was just that something really drastic happens economically, Narrate can continue in its ministry. And from a practical standpoint, if everything's hitting the fan, I think that's when people have a greater tendency to turn to God. So I believe it's very important to be able to continue
that's really
what Narrate is doing when people probably need a local expression of God and the Holy Spirit the most.
Wow, yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it. Not, I mean, when you say that, I'm like, yeah, I've heard you say that before, but just even the notion that when the tide comes in, I guess it would be like people are even more hungry to find it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. And I think I've got some ideas to return to this in the fall, but I want to give you a chance to speak to it a little now. Of your wife describes you as somebody with the spiritual gift of giving. Would you concur?
I think so.
I think her exact words are, if she let you, you'd give everything away.
Well, I think we're both guilty of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've both been very very giving of people, of our things, our time and things like that, friends and family, and we've volunteered for a number of things over the years from that perspective. And part of our philosophy is early on in our lives together, we really took Malachi 3:10 to heart. And, that's where it says, it starts off with the question of, will you rob God? In other words, the answer was, well, how are we robbing God? Well, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse so that, we can meet the needs, the spiritual needs. And we took that to heart. And even though when things were tough, we trusted in that, and we believe that, God blessed us richly in all manners, not only financially, but that allows us to be givers. That when there's a need, we can step up because we have the resources. And we just believed in that if we were faithful, that God would be faithful in the second part of that verse where he says, I'll give back to you, pressed down, shaken, and running over. And that's been true in our lives, and that we've been blessed financially and in all manners of ways. And so, I would say, I think that's a characteristic.
So you guys became tithers at what age? Do you remember?
Gosh, 28, maybe. Wow. 27, 28.
Have you ever looked back? Isn't that wild?
No.
I hear that over and over and over, but it's one of those, you don't know it until you do it.
Right. Yeah.
It's wild.
And it's tough. I mean, as a family with 4 young children and everything, there were certainly times when we were like, it'd be so easy not to write that check this week.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's that Andy Sandy talks about giving $1 from 10 is and giving 10 from 100 is but then you start going and then giving 100 from 1,000 and 10,000 from 100,000 like that. It just, you have to build that muscle.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, well, I pride myself in not looking, but I'm also not ignorant to know that you and Doris have made a huge financial contribution to our existence. So thank you. Your giving legacy is something that I'm really hoping we can build on. Not just for, there's such a fine line there too. Even as I'm studying this out personally, and it just hit me this morning, because there's such a fine line of preaching generosity versus, I think what occurred to me this morning is the impetus is that God is generous.
Right. It's
not a task to fulfill. It's a value of God is inherently generous, and therefore, who am I to not be?
Exactly.
Which is so
right.
It's just a weird. Even this morning, it hit me that famous parable about the unforgiving servant. It never occurred to me because John Mark Comer says that something that as many as 50% of the parables are on giving. And I would have never thought of until this morning, that's probably one of them. I've always thought of that as a forgiveness parable, and I think it is. But I think it's a generosity parable. how could you have received mine and not extended it to others?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yep.
It's hard, but also, have you ever regretted $1 you've given away?
No.
Huh.
Because, at the end of the day, try to take the perspective of, I believe I'm supporting what God is doing, and we can mess that up, and we can apply dollars to things that God might not be happy about. But at the end of the day, it's like, my intention is to give this to you.
Wow. So there's this thing called a SWOT. I'm sure you've done it professionally. What is it? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yep.
Would you give us your candid SWOT analysis of Narrate as we head into what I guess is our 16th or 17th year? What would you name as our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats?
Strengths, I think, are that we have a pretty loyal group of people, core group that are there. Sunday experiences, strive for excellence in every Sunday experience. My dad just loves coming to visit because he loves coming to church on a Sunday morning.
He just smiles.
And
I love it when
he's fascinated by the fact that you can give a whole sermon without sermon notes. So, but anyway.
That's because people like you pay my salary, so memorize it for 20 hours a week.
So, on the strength side, I would say it would be that the messages, the Sunday, the experiences, the core group, the reputation that Narrate has in the city, and those are significant treasures. Weaknesses, I would say we've struggled with youth ministry. We've been on again, off again, on again, off again, and so we've kind of struggled with that. So students would be an area, and I know we're looking at that to trying to shore that up right now. And then just the time that we live in is one where, especially young parents, kids in sports and school events and whatnot, they're running all over creation. And so I think there's this natural tension between, doing church-related things and family and school and whatnot related things. So that would fall into the threats category as well, in that just time and busyness. And I, I'm guilty of that as well.
Right.
That, I've had to be intentional in saying, okay, I'm going to slow down now. I'm going to take more time because, part of my role from a work perspective was always on 100 miles an hour, and you never ran out of things that you needed to do. So I've had to learn how to step back, slow down, and appreciate things and people more so. So, I think that's in the, so I did strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats, and then opportunities. I think, we are prepared. I think there's a good firm foundation underneath Narrate, and that's where I feel confident that, me stepping aside and somebody else coming in, at least is going to come in at a good firm foundation. And so I think that's one of the things we have an opportunity, given how we've positioned ourselves over the years, our reputation in town, our bankroll of things that we can apply towards growth and whatever God's going to ask us to do in the future. And so I think that's one of the greatest opportunities. Just waiting to hear that next instruction of I'd like you to do X.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're in a great opportunity to respond positively to whatever X is.
And one of the things that's coming up in this baptism cycle that I didn't see coming and is wildly encouraging to me is there's two couples involved there who are very much a part of that kind of 2020, just the fervor of, is church even good anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm starting to see evidence of this like growing sense of people going, it's been a few years and we're not, like, we don't think we like this like being gone isn't working for us and our family.
Yeah.
And there's still a genuine reticence that they have, and a reluctance, and almost like a, you know, like an abused child, this like there's still a skittishness that they have, but it just feels like the Holy Spirit might be moving us into this season where he's going to entrust us with these people who they want to come back. And there are some conditions to their coming back, but also they're wanting to come back. And that I just was able to say to one of those couples a couple weeks ago, I guess there's just not a higher privilege right now for me because we've been on the receiving end, right? And just watching the way this just flattened families and caused them to question everything. And we all have a lot of empathy for why that occurred. But now to see not just individuals, but whole families going like, we're coming back. And then even to see, even last night it came up in the baptism gathering we did where there was like this like resolve of, we're not just back, but we're going to like be there. And
yeah,
I don't know if that's the opportunity, but it does strike me that, and some of the 3 stream stuff even came up within that of these people. Like one guy spoke last night about watching his dad take communion as a kid, and now that it brought him to tears as he was reflecting on that. So is it, to kind of flip that script a little bit, are you 60?
No, I'm beyond that.
Are you? Okay.
I turned 65 this summer.
Oh, wow. Okay, so is it darker, or are we just more inundated with news in your mind? Like, is it harder? Is it darker, or is it perspective? Because you would have a better perspective of this than most of us listening.
I think it's darker. I think that, Scripture talks about, we battle not against flesh and blood, and I get the sense that the spiritual forces are more active, and you see that in all aspects of life. And one of the things you read C.S. Lewis and Screw Tape Letters, and some of his perspectives on it. Encouraging somebody to be busy and not having time for family and relationships and things like that is a win.
Sure.
Right? And so, I think what you're seeing here is people, are pursuing, and I was certainly guilty of that. We got really active in things and had very little time for things, and we were like, gosh, we did an awful lot, but we don't feel satisfied, right? So I think that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, so I think it is darker from that perspective. But then we're all just caught up in this busyness, so we have less opportunity to refresh and refocus. The interesting part about Helena is, people live here because the recreation opportunities and being out in nature, and so I think we're perhaps less impacted. When I go to the big cities on business, I sense it a whole lot more in the big city. Less so here because people do get out and they do slow down and enjoy God's creation.
It's interesting you say that, because both Brad and Chris, when they visited this year, Chris from Atlanta and Brad from Sacramento, the thing both of them said over and over to me when they would be hanging out at my house is like, I can't believe you have hobbies. Like, I'm so, and there was this like, how else do you guys live? Like, I feel like culturally here we swing the other way of like our hobbies become our idols if we're not careful. But
Yep,
and they
that's
as we
true.
talk about mountain biking and bonsai trees, they're like, I just can't believe you have hobbies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you do see it when I went to Atlanta. I'm just like, this is all you people do is work.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, and then you see all the bad aspects of life in the big city too. I think people are, show up there, they're more desperate, and so you see more of the crime and the, some of the more negative aspects of life in the bigger city. And so I think we're fortunate we live where we live.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for the way you've made us better, and it's not like you're going anywhere, at least I hope not, but thanks for pouring in and doing this, and I look forward to more formal council goodbyes to come, but also on behalf of the whole Narrate community, thank you for the way you've served us and set us up, and I'm really grateful for your SWOT analysis. I think that's a really helpful perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's been a joy. Like anything, there's ups and downs, but the entire spectrum, it's been a joy. It's been an honor to be a part of it, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Mine too.
If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.